I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. Greetings all. I just want to say shout out to people in the chat. Shout out to everyone watching on Rockfin, Twitter, and YouTube. What is going on, Aspen Fallen? That Biden pic with emoji, LOL. Oh, yeah. That was bad, huh? That's pretty bad. What's going on, Tonya? Tonya says Biden is determined to lose in 2024. You know, it's almost like he wants to lose. I don't know. It's almost like Dems really want to lose. Yes. I'm going to get into that story. What's going on, Hannah G? Hello. Greetings, Passion Tro says good vibes. What's going on, CBC voter? Panquake. Oh, yeah. So actually, one of the guys from Panquake was on here a while back. It hasn't been released yet, but I'm still waiting for that because that's going to be like a whole new like social media platform. So I'm looking forward to that. What's going on, Indy Left? Doobie. Hello. Always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for coming to the General Strike Summit. I really appreciate it. What's going on, Silva Surfa? Happy almost 420. 420? Oh, you're West Coast. Okay. It's 7:03 p.m. here. I'm like, oh boy. What's going on, Eric Thomas, who's a Sabby member? Hello, Monday friends. Shout out to Valerie. Hello, chatters. What's going on? Always a pleasure to see you. What's going on to Tori Lee? I love the emojis there. Greetings, Delthea Simmons says, hello, everybody. She's a Sabby member. What's going on, Casey? Love your intro, Sabby. Thank you so much. And thanks to Jesse Jett for the music. And thanks to Roar Media for the video. Can't take credit. Passing Troy, I did say hello to you. I'm making sure I get everybody. What's going on? Phenomenal Mysticism. Sabby. I'm happy that you and the rest of FHL were able to have a General Strike Summit. Great, important discussions. Thanks so much. I'm actually going to talk about, at the end of the show, I'm going to do a recap about that to talk about some of the things that I learned, and I'll show you a couple of snippets as well. But welcome to Sabby Sabs Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. For those of you who are new, Sabby Sabs Podcast is a part of the Fred Hampton Leftist Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Roundtable and Fridays for the Sabby Show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I want to get into tonight's stories because let me pull up my thing here. You know, we really cannot go 1 week without Joe Biden doing something cringe. Like literally, we can't go 1 week without it. This guy is holding the record for this. And we thought it was only Trump who would do these things, right? No. So let me go ahead and pull up my thumbnail and show you what we're going to be talking about tonight. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Share my screen. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about, I'm sorry, I'm laughing at that Biden picture too now. Oh my gosh. We're going to talk about Biden blocks housing. What is that all about? You can see the angry emoji right next to him is not having that. We're going to discuss Amy Klobuchar confronted. What did Amy Klobuchar do, you guys? And of course, we're going to talk about the FHL General Strike Summit. We're going to do a recap about that. So I want to go ahead and get into the Biden story because this is really frustrating to me. And I think you're going to be frustrated as well, considering that it is 2021 and Joe Biden has not evolved when it comes to marijuana in this country. And now he is trying to get other states that have legalized it to follow this rule. So walk with me here. Here we go. We'll keep denying public housing over marijuana use, insists the Biden administration. Now, here we go. Make this a little bit bigger for you guys. All right, that's good. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development says it is required to continue denying federally assisted housing to people who use marijuana, even if they're acting in compliance with state law. Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton sent a letter to HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge in May, imploring the department to use executive discretion and not punish people over cannabis in legal states. Now, I personally think it shouldn't just be legal states. I don't think, I mean, come on, it's 2021. Like, I don't think this should matter at all, regardless if you're in a state where it's legal or not. I just don't think that this should be an issue. The department's response letter, which Norton released November 9th, says that consistent with federal law, HUD prohibits the admission of users of marijuana to HUD-assisted housing, including those, here we go, who use medical marijuana. Isn't that something? So here's the tweet here. HUD denied my request to allow marijuana use in federally assisted housing in jurisdictions where it is legal. I'm disappointed in their denial, though it shows why it's so vital that Congress pass my bill permitting such use. And there's the bill there. It cited the relevant statute and reiterated that the department must prohibit admission to HUD rental assistance programs based on the illegal use of controlled substances, including state legalized medical marijuana. Now, here's the problem here. It says illegal use of controlled substances. But if you live in a state where it's already legal, how is it illegal? That just doesn't make any sense. Even state medicalized medical, this is a problem. This is a problem. I'm not going to go into the whole statute, but it says, absent a change in federal law, HUD does not have the discretion to admit users of marijuana, including medical marijuana, to the public housing program, the letter states. Norton said in a press release that she's very disappointed in HUD's decision to refuse to protect residents in federally assisted housings who use marijuana in compliance with their state and local laws. Americans are continually evolving on the issue of marijuana use with rapidly increasing support. This response shows even more why Congress should enact my bill that would permit marijuana to use in federally assisted housing in compliance with state law. It is a travesty that the Biden administration would prioritize process over people. Shouldn't even be a part of the process, in my opinion. But the department also referenced a 2014 memo that is issued on the subject that similarly defers to the statute, but advocates saying it's disappointing to see HUD continue to rely on 7-year-old guidance as numerous states have moved to legalize cannabis for medical or adult use in the years since. HUD did suggest, however, that property managers have some discretion when it comes to people who have already been admitted to federally assisted housing. See, that doesn't make any sense. So you're going to say it may be okay for some that are in HUD housing, but not for all. That just doesn't make any sense to me. This is just bad. This is just bad all around. I'm telling you. While they must set policies allowing for the termination of housing for people, get this, termination of housing for people who are found to be using controlled substances. The law provides discretion and owners to determine on a case-by-case basis when it is appropriate to terminate the tenancy of the household. Again, you're putting this responsibility in the hands of the landlords, of the housing authorities, and again, that is just not going to go well. Obviously, they are going to give preference to some people than others. That is the problem when you leave it open like that. Well, you can use discretion in this case, in some cases, if you want to. This is a problem. That's not the type explicit protection that Norton and others are seeking. However, HUD's response may spur lawmakers to take up the Congresswoman's standalone bill on the issue, which was filed in May this session. Let me pop out. This is a long article. Oh my God, where do I begin? You know, when people like Clyburn say that Biden is the most pro-Black president, which is a lie, it just frustrates me because you have Biden doing things like this and they are still trying to say he's a pro-Black president. And I'm going to tell you why this is problematic. Number one, who is this going to affect the most? It's going to affect Black people. It's going to affect Black families. So basically, if you are going to apply for public housing, even if you live in a state that has legalized marijuana, you will not be given admission, thanks Joe Biden, if you use marijuana. It doesn't make any sense. I know that federally it is still illegal, but why should that determine if someone has a place to live? Do you guys see just how backwards Democrats are going? You see how backwards this is. This doesn't make any sense. I know Republicans who are in favor of legalizing marijuana. And Dems just keep sliding further and further to the right, further and further to the right. So my whole thing is that this is going to affect Black people the most. So here we have Joe Biden, who is okay with Black people being kicked out of public housing because they use marijuana. Now, here's where some people may come back with a counter argument and they may say, well, all they have to do is just follow the rules. No, that is not okay in this case. I live in Massachusetts. It's legal here. Not only is it legal here, there's shops here. Lots of them. they sprung up pretty quickly. I'm not even going to exaggerate. They sprung up pretty quickly, and there's still more coming. You mean to tell me it's okay for us to have all these shops? It's okay for it to be legal here, but you're going to tell people in public housing that they can't use it? That's not fair. It's like they're being penalized for being poor. Do you guys see that? The rest of us that don't live in public housing, we're free to use it. But if you live in public housing, Joe Biden's telling you you're not free to use it. That's not fair. It's like you're being criminalized because you're poor. And this is a recurring problem that we have in this country. The fact that it is 2021 and we still can't get past decriminalizing marijuana federally in this country. And Joe Biden already told you he wouldn't do it. And I know why he's not going to do it. Because he's funding the police state. Now walk with me here. He's funding the police state. Police officers, do you know how many times they bust people for marijuana? Because see, if you decriminalize marijuana federally, you make it legal federally, then you really can't advocate for the reason to fund the police state. Joe Biden doesn't want that. Joe Biden is pro-cop. He wants to continue to support police. I even told you guys, going back to that George Floyd bill, the policing bill, if you actually look through the bill, they're giving the police more money. So how are you protecting police killing innocent Black people or unarmed Black people if you're giving them more money so that they can become more militarized? You're not. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat. Sweet Drifter said, I swear to God, the fascists have every single lever under their control, and no one is outraged morally. Eric Thomas, all drugs are already effectively legal for the top 1%. This goes back to the class issue. This is why I'm telling you guys. Does anybody see the hypocrisy? Because let's remember, it was okay for Joe Biden's son to smoke crack on video, didn't go to jail, no record for it, no criminal record for it. But people who are low income that have no choice but to live in public housing, they can't even smoke weed? Are you kidding me? If they're caught doing so, they may be removed, they may be evicted. So Joe Biden's okay with increasing the homeless population. Sweet Drifter said Hunter Biden would be in jail if he was poor and black. He would be. Absolutely. Saul, Biden asked his staffers to be honest about ever using pot in their lives and then fired the ones who were honest. LOL. But his son doesn't get punished at all. This is the thing here. Green Tree says the problem that the only statistic that is growing besides inflation is poverty. This makes no sense to me. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how would this even work in Massachusetts? Like, would people here put up with that? I don't think people here would. I don't think people in Boston would be like, wait a minute. People, I don't know. We're pretty tough here. I don't think people in Boston would be like, yeah, that's okay. No. It's just the craziest. It's like, it's just the craziest. I don't know what to say. Miguel said, what isn't legal for the top 1%? They can do it. And it's really messed up because you guys, if you don't live here, you may not know this, how this happened, how it passed here in Massachusetts. It was on a ballot. I remember voting for it. And I don't even smoke weed. I remember voting for it. And I was actually surprised it was as close as it was. I thought it would be drastically in favor of legalizing marijuana here. It wasn't. It was kind of close. It was closer than I thought it would be. But the people voted for it. And so this is an example of the federal government trying to come in and undermine the democracy of the people. How are you going to come in to a state where it's already legal and try to tell them what they can and can't do with it? Going to some of the comments in the chat. I see a lot of them. Oh boy. Dirtbag leftist said weed is legal in New York. All right, there you go. Colorado. I'm not sure if it's Oregon actually. I think Oregon decriminalized all drugs. Yes, it's either Oregon or Washington State. I think it's Oregon though. I don't know. Leroy said he made $83,000 a month after smoking crack. Hello. He went on and still had a successful career. But the poor people that live in HUD housing, if they get caught with marijuana, Joe Biden wants them evicted. Their lives are ruined. They don't get a second chance. This is the class war that we talk about. It's okay for people who are middle class, people who are upper middle class, people who are wealthy. It's okay for them to do it. But it's not okay for people who are poor to do it. Now, give me an example where someone was seriously harmed from marijuana. I'll wait. Like Joe Biden is still, it reminds me of that movie. Do you guys ever see that movie called Reefer Madness? It was really bad. It's an old black and white movie, and they made it seem like if people like used marijuana, they would start acting crazy and behave crazy. And they had ads that were like, marijuana makes white women want to be with black men. Like this was like a thing. There was a guy, like all of a sudden he smoked and then he jumped on the piano and was like playing the piano all crazy. I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen anybody react like that after they've smoked. It doesn't make any sense. So then you kick them out, they're evicted. They have nowhere to live. Now they're further in poverty than they were before when they were living in public housing. They need food. Then in turn, that leads them to crime. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Most of crimes committed are due to poverty. And this is not something I feel like I would have to tell Joe Biden, because Joe Biden knows that this is going to affect Black people the most. So to hear Clyburn say that he's the most pro-Black president, I just know that Jim Clyburn is he's really just being Uncle Tom. And I know he knows better. I see a lot of comments in the chat. What's going on, Gamer for Life? Yep, Reefer Madness is pure propaganda. LOL. Yo, because like you guys have got to watch that movie. I think it's on YouTube. I don't remember. I think we watched it on YouTube, either there or Hulu. No, I think it was on YouTube. You got to watch it because you'll just. Oh my God, I was laughing so hard. Stylist says people break the law to feed their family. The people that break the law for fun are all rich and white. Oh. It's just sad. It's absolutely disturbing. The fact that he's still going to try to like do this. Every time we get a step ahead, we get some kind of progress in this country. It's like people like Biden, they come in and they're like, no, let's bring it back. Let's take 2 steps back. There is no reason why marijuana should not be federally legal in this country. No reason whatsoever. Except for the fact that Dems and Republicans want to continue to fund the police state. And if you legalize marijuana, let me tell you how this works, because this is important. If you legalize marijuana, that cuts out the middleman. Because now you don't have to go to your friend to get it. Now you can just go to a shop. So that cuts out the middleman. You cut out the middleman. There's no one for you. There's not as many people for you to arrest. There's no dealers for you to arrest unless you're going to get something else. But most of the time, from what I've read, most people are going to get weed. That means less arrests for police officers. And they can't have that because police officers have to get that quota. Why do you think they patrol certain neighborhoods? They just drive around blocks in a circle, just trying to find something, any little thing. And if they can't, they'll plant things on you. There's a video on YouTube about police officers in Baltimore doing just that, from a guy who was a police officer there. Saul said, who's going to fight fires for $2 a day if we don't jail Black Americans for pot? There you go. There you go. The same guy who gave us the crime bills. He's continuing the police state. Still hasn't apologized for the crime bills. Still hasn't. Even Bill Clinton came back and apologized. Joe Biden has not. In fact, in one interview, he said he wasn't going to apologize for it. But keep going at it, Clyburn. He's the most pro-Black president. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Kyle said they'd rather the indebted abuse drugs that have a chance of killing them than use marijuana. This is where we're at in this country. This is where we're at. I told you guys this before. Cops don't really solve crime. 0.02%. So if you legalize marijuana, it's even like they don't really solve crime. It's not like the movies that we see, these detective movies, like, oh yeah, they're going to get the guy. Most of the time they don't. Shout out to Black in the Empire. Thanks so much for the super chat. Yep, big story here in Baltimore. Yeah, my parents are from Baltimore. And I'm going to tell you, like, they have some stories. And I've seen some things. I should do a whole, like, separate stream about the police in Baltimore. Because the way that they treat people, poor people, Black people in Baltimore, it is absolutely appalling. Robert said, so basically the big pharma of those days wanted marijuana to be legal so they could use their own drugs instead. And what's crazy about this is like, they're not even going to let you use medical marijuana. So you guys know some people have to use medical marijuana because they have cancer. You're even saying you can't use that. Phenomenal Mysticism said maybe Russia should start overthrowing US presidents. Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Echo J said Jim Clyburn equals Uncle Ruckus. Oh my God. Have you guys ever seen the Boondocks? If you haven't watched the Boondocks, you should definitely watch it. That was a really good show. And I was sad when it was canceled. And I thought it was going to come back, but it didn't come back. But Uncle Ruckus, he does remind me of Jim Clyburn. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Infamous says Biden and Harris are going to make the police wealthy, and they'll continue to do so. They'll continue. Kamala Harris was basically a cop. It's just terrible. And I want to be very clear here. I have never seen someone smoke weed and do something that endangered themselves or someone else. I've never seen that happen. Most of the time, I've seen them just mellow out and just be chill as fuck. I'm just being honest. But I have seen people do dangerous things after they had alcohol. And this is the thing I want people to understand. Alcohol is more dangerous than weed. But I don't make the laws in the country. I don't make the laws. James said the top cop in California. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. So once again, another example of Joe Biden basically crapping on Black people, because that's who this is going to affect, most likely. And yet, mainstream media will continue to praise him and continue to say that he's doing a good job, and he's not. And I have to say to any of the members of the squad, if they don't call this out, like literally, like I'm thinking about someone like Cori Bush, who has been poor, who has been homeless, who knows what it's like to go through the system, who knows what it's like to go through public housing. I really would like to see someone like her call Joe Biden out on this. Now, she said Joe Manchin not wanting to support BB Build Back Better Act is racist. But Joe Biden doing this is also racist towards Black people. I want to hear her call it out. But I don't think she will. Nancy Pelosi won't allow that. I'm going on to the second story. This one is about Amy Klobuchar. And I got to say, for the people who called her out, you have my support. I'm going to share my screen. Let me set this up for you and let you know what is going on in this video. So Amy Klobuchar was just confronted at a fundraising event. So she's at an event here, basically to help get someone elected. I think her name was Connie. So she's at an event, a fundraising event, to help get someone else in Minnesota elected. Let me show you what happens. This is funny, I'm sorry, but it needed to happen. Let me mute my mic.
Great teacher. Great teacher.
And what about line 3?
Okay.
Why is that line going through nearly half of North America's
Okay,
front
guys.
lines? But not only that, so nature project, but won't intercept on a
Okay.
project that's already.
Guys, could we just let me talk about Connie here just a little bit? Okay. Well, anyway, I want to thank everyone, tell you how much we love Connie Bernardi, okay? So let's get her reelected. She is an incredible leader. And by the way, stop line three! Stop line three! Stop line three! Stop line three! Stop line three!
Hi, are you having fun?
Now, I want to play it again and I want to interject because there's some things that she says that for me, I'm just like, really? This is your concern right now? And then she runs away. So give me just a second.
Great teacher.
And what about line 3? Why is that line going through nearly half of North America's
Okay,
freshwater?
guys.
But not only that, so you're going to fund a $5 billion nature project, but won't intercept on a
Okay.
project that's already.
Guys, could we just let me talk about Connie here just a little bit?
So the people who are there, they're protesting against line 3. I'll go into that after this video and tell you more about that. So they're telling her to stop line 3. Now, what's really interesting here is notice she just said, can you let me talk about Connie for a bit? That's the person that she's trying to help get elected. That's what the fundraiser is for. She don't care about the fact that these are indigenous people, that their land is going to be affected. She doesn't care about any of that. She's just like, can you let me talk about Connie? Because that's the reason why I'm here. Okay, I'll go on.
Okay. Well, anyway, I want to thank everyone, tell you how much we love Connie Bernardi, okay? So let's get her reelected.
See where her focus is at? Let's say how much we love Connie Bernardi. Let's get her reelected. That's all she cares about. Again, this is another example of a sitting politician, just like Sinema, who is ignoring protesters. And this is a more serious issue than getting Connie elected. And what does she go on to tell you? Yeah, let's get her reelected. That's her focus. And she's even laughing here. Unserious. She's unreal.
She is an incredible leader. And by the way, stop line three! 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 Stop line three!
Hi, are you having fun?
Did you notice she was smiling, little laugh there? And then she runs off the stage. She runs away, just like Kirsten Sinema. Now, how could she have handled that situation better? Address the audience. They're asking you questions about line 3. They're asking you about the funding. She doesn't even answer the questions. She goes on to say, we got to get Connie elected. See, this is why people lose faith in politicians. This is why we don't take you seriously. It's a joke. Can you believe this woman ran for president? You guys seeing this? You hearing this? This is what she's doing right now. Couldn't even answer the questions. The way that indigenous people and indigenous people's land has been treated in this country, it's terrible. And Amy Klobuchar, Miss Minnesota, doesn't give a shit. She doesn't care. I'm just here to help Connie get reelected. Oh, you want to talk about something else, something serious, something that affects the environment, that affects your lands? Let me run away. Some of you may be wondering about line 3, and I do want to go more into that. So give me just a second. I'll cue up the video, and then I'm actually going to go to some of the comments in the chat really quick before I do that. James said, these people don't even have the nerve to BS anymore. They just smile and pray they can get back to Sam Cedar and MSNBC. You signed up to be a politician. You need to answer the people. You can't just ignore them and then pick them back up when you're running again. And that's what they tend to do. Hit that like button, guys. It's absolutely terrible. Sweet Drifter said America is a land of brain dead fascists who call people like Rittenhouse a hero. Oh boy. It's just crazy. It's crazy. I got that video queued up. I'm going to play that for you. I want to show you more about line 3 and why it's problematic, why they are concerned, and they do have a right to be concerned. So everyone listen to this. I'm going to mute my mic really quick.
Spend on climate in the latest budget bill. Environmental activists are calling on the White House to intervene and stop the completion of the Line 3 pipeline, which runs from North Dakota to Wisconsin, crisscrosses multiple rivers, including a section of the Mississippi River in Minnesota. Our Mary Alice Parks went to Minnesota for a closer look at the fight over this pipeline, and she's got this closer look.
These are the headwaters of the mighty Mississippi, wetlands that feed into the longest river in the United States. From these streams, an economic engine and a life source providing fresh drinking water to an estimated 18 million people. And it is in part the fragility and significance of this land that has made the Line 3 pipeline project that crisscrosses these headwaters so controversial.
Protect the water, protect the trees.
Those opposed say the risks are unacceptable. Protests now spreading from coast to coast, from Hollywood to Capitol Hill. This pipeline project began in 2014. If completed and fully operational, the pipeline will be able to carry 760,000 barrels of Canadian oil a day through North Dakota to Wisconsin, with 337 miles in Minnesota. Members of the Red Lake Nation say it's a question of their rights to their land. The construction alone, they claim, has already had an impact, and a spill would be devastating.
It's some of the most pristine land in our entire United States. It's one of our national treasures, the headwaters of our Mississippi. And they chose to put this pipeline directly through those headwaters.
The Red Lake Nation has joined the White Earth Band of the Ojibwe tribe, Honor the Earth, the Sierra Club, and others in a number of lawsuits over the years trying to stop the project. But federally, the Army Corps of Engineers has greenlit it. The Minnesota courts so far have sided with Enbridge, the energy company, and the state in its permitting process. A state judge writing last June, with an existing deteriorating pipeline carrying crude oil through Minnesota, there was no option without environmental consequences. And there's no crystal ball to.
I just want to point out, you see what they're saying here? There was no option without environmental consequences. So they are telling you that there is going to be environmental consequences. This is going to hurt the environment. They know that, and they're doing it anyway. I find it hard to believe that there was no other option. I call BS on that. But again, they told you in the video that they decided to side with the energy companies. Of course. Why would they side with the people? Going back in.
The forecast demand for crude oil in this ever-changing environment. The construction started as a replacement project. Enbridge was instructed by the EPA and the Department of Justice in 2017 to replace old pipes. The company says the new pipes are engineered to be safer.
This has been a 6-year regulatory, legal, science-based process where everything's been tested.
Opponents push back on that argument. After all, now a third of the route will be brand new. Just this week, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources fined Enbridge over $3 million for digging deeper in some areas than their permits allowed. According to the agency, the violations released millions of gallons of groundwater while the state is struggling with a drought. Those still fighting in court are holding out hope that the federal government might intervene.
I support Biden. I support his agenda. For whatever reason, when it comes to Enbridge, when it comes to
Honey, I don't know why you supporting Biden or his agenda, because that is not the person you should be calling on for climate reform or for environmental issues right now. Joe Biden still supports fracking, so I don't know. Should not have faith in that one.
Line 3, they're going the wrong direction.
Minneapolis Representative Ilhan Omar has written repeatedly to the White House, too, demanding answers. She even brought her colleagues to the area to join the protests. I sat down with them, 4 members of the so-called squad.
The state Supreme Court let the certification for the pipeline stand. So are you out of time?
We are running out of time, which is why we're asking the president to intervene. This is the last hope that the water protectors have in stopping this pipeline.
And Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had planned to join her colleagues, but canceled her trip last minute after devastating storms hit New York.
Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez was planning to be here as well. She's not because of the devastating floods in New York. She wrote that this is even more reason for the Biden White House, as she put it, to stop building fossil fuel infrastructure. Is it absolute, though, for you that there should be zero fossil fuel infrastructure developed?
We have all their alternatives, and it's time for our country to move towards that direction.
There is today still a strong global demand for oil, but scientists like Heidi Roop say that the oil intended for this pipeline is one of the dirtiest. She tells us that burning all of the oil this pipeline could transport could make it nearly impossible for the president to meet his own goals for reducing emissions.
It translates roughly into around 38 million, the equivalent of 38 million cars on the road every year, or around 45 coal-fired power plants burning every year.
45?
Yeah, 45 coal-powered power plants, yes.
Enbridge, though, says the country can't just turn off all fossil fuels. Until there are enough cleaner alternatives, projects like Line 3 are still needed.
We can't push a button. We can't say, okay, we're going to stop what we're going to do today, and then all of a sudden, sorry, you don't get heat this year.
We're at a turning point. We need a wake-up call. Our governments need to wake up and look at what's going on. And if we don't do something drastic to change the way that things have been going, we're going to never turn the tide.
Well, I have news for you. Joe Biden is not going to be the one for that wake-up call. But I wanted to play that for you guys because I wanted to give the backstory about Line 3 and why it's so problematic. This is going to be a problem for the environment. And as many times as we keep hearing about climate reform, at the same time, we are still implementing things in this country that is increasingly making the environment worse. It's a problem. Now, it's nice that the squad, oh, did you guys catch? She said the so-called squad. That was kind of funny. That was kind of funny. The squad, it was nice for them to go there. I'm sure Ilhan Omar has written a nice letter, but this doesn't change anything. As you could see in the video, they've already started construction. This isn't changing anything. And so when you saw those protesters confronting Amy Klobuchar, now do you see why they did it the way that they did it? I don't care if it was a fundraiser for Connie, Bonnie, or Lonnie. They were at the right place at the right time. She was right up on the stage, and it was a point to call her out. And you saw she ran away because she couldn't handle it, because she didn't want to answer the questions. And if you don't want to answer these questions, tough questions, then you shouldn't be a politician. Just flat out truth. When it gets too tough, they run off. Kyrsten Sinema did the same thing. But this is another moment where I feel like once again, Indigenous people are not being heard. We saw this with Standing Rock. Now, let's remember, and we talked about this on the General Strike Summit over the weekend with Nico and Fiorella. We were talking about Standing Rock, and that is one example where direct action actually worked for them. Had the people not come out and protested against it for as long as they did, and Nico said it was really cold too, like really cold out there, they would have went through with that project. It's 2021 and indigenous people still have to fight for their land or what left of it. The government is just constantly making decisions that just make the environment worse and worse. And I'm sorry, but the other gentleman in the video that was just like, well, we can't just push a button and make things different. I'm sorry, but he's older. This is probably not going to affect him. He's probably not going to be affected by climate change the way that the rest of us are, the way that Gen Z kids are. I mean, let's be real. This is why, like, even years ago, we should have already started moving toward alternative sources of energy. We are late on this. Guys, when I lived in Germany, when I was a kid, they already had windmills. They were already using wind energy. We are behind. Going to some of the comments in the chat. Cam said not only that, but they surely can change things immediately, but they're choosing not to. Because I've heard that excuse my whole life. Well, we can't just change things just like that. I've seen them change things very quickly, the things that they want to change. Especially when it benefits the wealthy. Turbo GG. There is no acknowledgement that a white kid strutting down the street with an AR-15 is not a benign image. What are you talking about, Turbo? Are you talking about Kyle Rittenhouse? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Phenomenal Mysticism says maybe Amy Klobuchar and Kirsten Sinema should go to prison. Once in prison, they should be in prison in the same prison cell. Adding Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC wouldn't hurt either. Oh my God, they would kill each other. Could you imagine? Really? Could you imagine? Oh boy. Sweet Drifter says Biden and Obama at climate talks is like David Duke at a Black Lives Matter protest. I know, right? I called that out last week. Obama like shaming young people, telling them they need to basically vote harder and put pressure on the government. And I'm like, you mean like we have in the past and every time you stepped in and stopped it? Every time? Aya says European countries have been way ahead with most things. Healthcare, environment, legalized weed, etc. They have. I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect country, but they have. I don't know if I told you guys, but you know, Iceland has a 4-day work week. People fought for it and they got it. That would be great. It would be great to have that here. Just saying. Dwayne says the wealthy have a lock. We have to break them in form of a general strike, unfortunately. And that's why I say, and that's leading me into my next story. And that's why I tell you guys, at this point, that's the only option. Because that's the only thing they're actually going to respond to. Voting is not helping us. And voting is not going to change. If there are changes, it's not going to change anything anytime soon. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's a hot mess. Hit that like button, guys. All right, let's go into that story. General Strike Summit. So I think I saw a lot of you over there over the weekend. So we had our General Strike Summit. I'm just going to show my screen here really quick. Boop, 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 boop. All right, here we go. Share my screen. All right, yeah. So over at FHL this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we had our General Strike Summit. It was a 3-day event. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely very educational. I learned a lot. And that was the point, like, to educate people. I've received so many responses from people telling me just how much they like the event, how much information they got from it. And to be honest, like I told you guys, like we don't know everything either. We're not experts. So we learn things from this too. Like I learned a lot about unions that I didn't know because I've never been in a union. I also learned a lot about growing your own food, like coming together like as a community from people who are already doing these things. And I learned about worker co-ops more as well too. So it was really great to hear from a lot of the people that we heard from. So I put together a short I guess you want to call it a the idea. Why did you have to start with the volume? Sorry, not you guys. I'm talking to the video. Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen really quick. This is a short like compilation. I took some of the scenes from the general strike and just made a little short thingy for you, just in case those of you didn't get a chance to see it. These are some of the things that I learned while watching this and while doing this. And I wanted to share this with you guys because I met so many like inspiring people. Like I gotta tell you, like doing this from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. for 3 days, and we rotated in and out. So it's not like we did those whole shifts ourselves. But it really, really, I walked away from that Sunday night just feeling so motivated and so inspired, after listening to all the people. Now, this first clip you're going to see, this is the Red Berets. Some of you may be used to seeing them before. They're the ones that helped with Marches for Medicare for All. They do a lot of crafting. They make those red berets. I have one in here as well. And right now they're going to tell you about craft strike and mutual aid. So I'm just going to go ahead and play it and mute my mic, and I might chime in here and there.
Is that I want to connect artists who have small craft. The idea behind Craft Strike is that I want to connect artists who have small crafter businesses with mutual aid. So I'm taking the first step, and this is my in my steampunk parliament shop, which is my other side hustle. I make art and I do crochet lace, and I am selling these black roses for $20 a piece. You can get them either as a pin or on a stem, as you can see there. And the 100% of the proceeds will go to a split between Freedom Fighters DC, which is a Finney's mutual aid group, Rome Store for the Poor, and Red Beret / Whole Washington.
So I just want to chime in a bit here and tell you that those proceeds for those roses go towards Rome and Finney's mutual aid groups over at FHL. So I don't know anyone who can make things like that. But going back in, this clip right here, this guy, his name is Ed. Well, actually, he's going to tell you all about himself. But let me just tell you, Ed has done a lot. And I would love to have Ed back on, like just by himself, because this guy knows a lot. So this is the segment where there were union workers and people that have done worker co-ops. So here we go.
From Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh, and I was the founder of the Western PA Coalition Single Payer Healthcare. I also was the president of a local central labor council outside of Pittsburgh for 15 years, and I worked for about 35 years with Service Employees Union and the staff of the Pennsylvania Association of Staff Nurses. So I've negotiated union contracts, run for office, and lately I'm just doing the healthcare business of trying to get Medicare for all nationwide. What is the best way forward for unions? What is the best strategy to do it? And if you aren't honest about that, you're never going to get to the next level.
Glory and Shahid, advice for people who want to become activists. I'll start with you, Glory.
Just do it. Yeah, start literally just start little by little, like just going to a couple protests or like learning and then teaching other people how to grow your own food, trying to like educate yourself and then pass that on to other people. One of the purest forms of activism and advocacy is just talking to other people about stuff that matters to you. And you know, that's how I started doing it. Had a lot of mental hurdles to go through, but I eventually got through it, and now here I am. So I promise, just start little by little, and then eventually it doesn't necessarily become easier, but it gets to the point where it's like second nature to you.
So that's Glory Jones from MCSE Network. She co-hosts Slow News Day with Steve, and they're talking about activism in this segment. So Glory is not just a podcaster, she's also an activist. If you follow her on Twitter, you'll see a lot of her activism. She does a lot for Assange, and Shahid Buttar is talking about his activism as well.
So that's my advice.
Shahid?
I'd say just start by showing up. You know, the COVID pandemic complicates this because a lot of, it's harder to be in person now than it was at different points, but showing up, even if it's in a virtual space, to learn. Activism obviously implies action. The first thing to do, though, is just to learn. Whatever we might all know and bring to the table, there's lots of gaps in each of our understandings, and somebody somewhere in your community has been organizing and is active already on whatever might concern you. And if you show up in the spaces where they're organizing, you're going to learn new things relevant to your interest. And if you approach it through that gateway, a limitless array of opportunities are going to unfold. If you think about ways to strategically redeploy whatever privileges you might have, whether that's an educational privilege, whether that's an occupational privilege, whether it's a privilege in terms of who's sitting at your table at Thanksgiving.
These fights are not with.
Yeah, I just want to chime in here and just say that's very true. The hardest part with activism is showing up. So, I just want to say that is the hardest part. That's the hardest hurdle to get over. It's just going. And then once you're there, you can kind of take it from there, but that's the hardest part. This right here is, this segment was direct action and defending water. So this is with Nico, Fiorella, Dontel, who you guys know is unapologetic, Logan, who's an activist and also involved in worker co-ops, and me and CJ. And this is where they're talking about Standing Rock.
Without their risks. But as a lot of you probably know by now, that action has been defeated. There is going to be no pipeline through Standing Rock now. And that was now it's been 5 years later. But the attention that got brought to it for it to even make it as far as it did through the courts was directly because, in my opinion, it was largely because of the direct influence of direct action. You're up against a power structure that was seemingly unbeatable. And it seemed like people were kind of down, and then they managed to use Standing Rock to unify them and galvanize them. And that, carried over into a lot of other positive actions that we saw around the country following the Standing Rock events.
Standing Rock is a good example of direct action that worked. And for people who don't know, can you please explain to everyone, why are workers on strike at Kellogg's right now?
Well, it's kind of similar to.
Yeah, so this gentleman right here, this gentleman works at Kellogg's. He's on strike. So Rome reached out to him and got him to come on. So there was another strike worker at Kellogg's that came in on another segment as well. But he's going to explain why they're on strike. And this panel consisted of Franco, Ricky Rance, who you guys may know from Medicare for All marches. He's very heavily involved with Medicare for All. And we were talking about not activism, but how we can bring these direct action events together in order to transfer them into a general strike. But I want you to pay close attention to what Trevor from Kellogg says, because I thought that this was really important.
What you were speaking about as far as the healthcare piece, right? The company has been insisting upon a two-tier wage and benefited and pension system, and a lot of that is around the healthcare piece of it. And if you really look at, unfortunately, organized labor, the last 20 to 30 years, we have not fought for the future at all. We have compromised to avoid fights, and that compromise always comes at the future workforce. Either the junior workforce or the future workforce. And I've been a part of this now for 15 years. I've tried educating people and explaining to people what this race to the bottom is. And if we don't do something about it to stop it, we're only a couple generations away from being a third world country.
Let me know if you can hear okay. It's
Okay, now this was something new for FHL. We actually had two members. Kamali went out like in the field to one of the strikes that was going on in Massachusetts, which I've known about that one for a while. And Rome actually also went out in the field to the Kellogg strike too. So that's on a different segment, but this is where Kamali is now. So this was different because it almost feels like it felt like I was watching an actual like news like cast just to have someone out in the field. So this is cool, but this is the nurses strike that's going on in Massachusetts. So check this out.
a little windy out here, but I'm here with one of the nurses that are on strike, Lil, and I just wanted to let them have have the microphone here, give them a little bit of voice here. So we're at St. Vincent's Hospital in Worcester, and these nurses have been on strike for 8 months now. This is the longest sustained nurses strike in our state history, and these nurses are just demanding better work, better staffing, better working conditions. Ever since the pandemic hit, the conditions have only gotten worse for them. In the time that a private for-profit corporation took over the hospital, and ever since then they took away their pensions, and now these nurses are just fighting for better conditions in the workplace, and not just for the nurses, but for their patients as well, and for the patient care. So if I could just have Lil come on and speak for just a second. She's just going to talk about what it is that they've been out here for, and what it is that they're demanding. So this is Lil. She's one of the nurses on strike here. And so Lil, if you can just talk and tell us, what's been going on here? What are you demanding here?
Well, we've been on strike for just about 8 months now, a little over 8 months. We originally came out on strike because of safe patient. We wanted safe patient staffing limits because it's been so unsafe now. Hospitals, since before the pandemic, but the pandemic made it even worse. We don't have enough help. We didn't have enough equipment that worked properly to do our jobs. And now we thought we had come to an agreement in August that, the strike was settled. We kind of, we gave a little bit, they gave a little bit, we thought it was good. And then they told us that, 85% of us would get our jobs back, but the top 15% would not get their jobs back.
Yeah, so those are just some clips from the General Strike Summit. I know we are working on clipping the actual individual segments and just uploading them. So that way people don't have to sit through a whole stream of it. There's 2 parts for each day because there's a limit to how much you can stream on StreamYard in a day. So we had to split it up into 2 parts. So 4 hours on, 6 hours on, I think it's 4 and 4. I forget. Anyway, it's split up in 2 parts for each day. But I know Nick is clipping vids and all that stuff. So that way you can just go straight to the one that you want to see. There were a lot of people on. I wish I had more clips for you, but I work full time. So this is what I could do in the time that I have. This is why people ask me, like, why don't you clip your live streams and upload them like a lot of people do? Honestly, because I don't have time. Like, I'm just being honest with you. Like, I don't have time to do the clips. I wish I did, but I'm at work during the day. So that's why you don't see uploads from me. You just mainly see live streams, just being honest. But yeah, so it was great to hear from all of those people. And then there's even a segment where Logan's showing people how to grow your own food. And there was deep discussions about how you can raise money for like general strikes, and not just a national one, but even doing it by state. How we can all come together for mutual aid, how we need people, set up to babysit for people. So different ways that you can go about doing it. And what was really interesting to me, and I didn't get this part on the clip, and I'm mad at myself that I didn't get it, but Trevor from Kellogg's, I was asking him later on, in your union, are most of the people Democrat or Republican? And he said it's about split. And then we asked him later on, do you think at this point we need a general strike? And he said yes. And you know what else he went on to say? He went on to say that a lot of it with politics, it's we're divided amongst social issues. So it's like we're not really social issues, beliefs. That's what he said. So like politics will divide you with, he said, like, for example, abortion. Well, that's more so a belief. He said they'll divide you with those things. But when you look at the concrete things, when you look at things like labor, like healthcare, those are things that most of us want, whether you're Republican or you're Democrat. So this is why it's important to talk to people who may or may not have the same political ideology as you. That guy said, yes, I think we should have a general strike. And for people wondering about Massachusetts, the nurses' strike that was going on in Worcester, they were on strike back when we did the protest for Medicare for All in Boston, and that was in July. That's how long they've been on strike. So, and by the way, nurses go on strike often here in Massachusetts, especially like Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. They go on strike. It's like, it seems like every year one of them is on strike. Brigham and Women's are like Tufts. And it's just, again, it's the working conditions. And that was going on before COVID. And you notice, you heard her say that they started taking things away from them before the pandemic started. They had already started taking their pensions and stuff. So this is one of the things that I've been trying to inform people about. All of this didn't just start with the pandemic. Some of these companies were already starting to take things away. They were already laying people off. They were already refusing to promote people who have been there for years. They were refusing to give people a decent wage. And then, yes, when the pandemic hit, it just pulled the cover off of it, right? But we already had those problems with labor in this country. We already had those problems. We still have a federal minimum wage of, what is it, $7.25 an hour still? So nobody can live off of that. So this is really important. I'm glad that we did this, and I'm it was a lot of work, not gonna lie. Come Sunday evening, I was really tired. Like when I went to bed Sunday, I just crashed. I literally just crashed. I was like, good night. But it was so worth it. And we met some awesome people and we learned a lot. And in reference to worker co-ops, there is a co-op. I want to shout this out. And I want to give a big shout out to Roger Meadows, because he has been mentioning this multiple times on the show, in the chat. And one of the co-founders of this co-op came on to FHL, and they came up with a rideshare service in New York. And where was the video? There was a video. I don't know. Hold on. Balls. All right, I'll show you the article. There was a video and I lost it. All right, I'll show you the article because I want to shout this out, because this guy was awesome. And so you can download this app, by the way, this is in New York City, and it's Drivers Cooperative. Let me make sure I have the right app name. I want to make sure I'm on the right thing. Yeah, Drivers Cooperative. And basically what this is kind of like, you have Uber, you have Lyft. Well, this is like that too, but the workers own it. So I don't know if you guys know this, but part of the problems that like employees at Lyft and Uber have run into is that the co-op ride share. Yeah, thank you so much, Robin. They run into is the fact that Uber and Lyft, they take a lot from the drivers, not giving them benefits, things like that. Whereas this ride share in New York, Robin, could you do me a favor? Do you remember the app name because I want people to see the app. Did I download the app? I'm notorious for downloading things and getting rid of it. Let me see. What's on this phone? I think it was let me see. Co-op ride? Yes, co-op ride. Co-op ride, guys. That's the name of the app. I'll put it in here. Co-op ride. So if you have Android, you can get it from, the Play Store. I don't know what iPhone people use. But yeah, and you can install the app. And I highly suggest and highly recommend, if you're in New York City, please download this app and use this service instead of Uber and Lyft. Because with this service, at least you know that the workers are actually being compensated the way that they should and they're being taken care of. If I remember correctly from the video, they were saying that they get to become part owner, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it says earn more, save more, be an owner. So that is very different from what you get if you are just driving with Uber or Lyft. And this is the good thing about worker co-ops. And by the way, if you want to learn more about worker co-ops, definitely watch Professor Richard Wolff. He has a YouTube channel, and he talks about worker co-ops often. But this is one of the ways, this is something that we could do together. Like, this was a group of guys. Like, they got together and was like, hey, let's do our own thing, because we know the taxi companies in New York City, they pretty much like were ripping off the taxi drivers. We just saw like they were on the hunger strike and they won. They make them pay all this money for the medallions, which are incredibly expensive. And a lot of times, the taxi drivers in New York are usually internationals. They're coming from another country. And I think they prey on them because they say, oh, well, they're not from here. So we'll sign them up for it. And they won't think it's ridiculous to pay all this money for a medallion. It's very shameful. It really is. So yeah, definitely check them out. I'm going to put the link in the chat too, so you can check out this website. But the gentleman that came on, his name was Ken Lewis. And this was amazing. This was just amazing. So yeah, it says ride with us. I'm going to see if I can actually get that video. I got it. All right. Here's the video. Yay, Sabby found it. Whoop, 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 whoop. All right, let me share my screen for that. Here's the video, you guys. I'm going to play it for you because this is so inspiring and I hope this warmed your heart. But we have got to like start doing something different in this country. So here it is. Here's the app I was telling you about, the ride share. Their goal is I was about to say 2,000. But this is their goal. They're almost there. Almost there. Okay? Here's the video.
When you book a ride through Uber, up to 40% of your fare is taken by the company before drivers receive their share of the money. But New Workers Cooperative in New York City is trying to change how ride shares work. Co-op Ride is a new rideshare app that's unique from Uber and Lyft in several major ways. First, they promise lower fares to riders. And second, the app takes a lower percentage out of drivers' wages and delivers the company's profits back to the drivers as dividends. Most importantly, the company offers a part ownership stake for all drivers that sign up.
The power of these companies comes down to a simple choice people make of like, what button do you push when you open up your phone to get a ride? And well, now you can push a different button, which actually helps your community instead of hurting it.
The stakes are high right now for rideshare drivers in New York City. This year, Lyft, Uber, and other allied gig work companies worked closely with New York State lawmakers on legislation that would allow them to continue classifying their workers as independent contractors rather than employees. Though worker advocates have stopped this bill for now, it's clear these companies have their eye on New York. And this level of influence is not without precedent. Nationwide, major rideshare companies have spent hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying to maintain the status quo and have won major victories.
In a very sick and twisted way, Uber and Lyft are taking money out of drivers' pockets and then using that to bankroll a nationwide assault on workers' rights.
That's Eric Foreman, a labor organizer and one of the 3 co-founders of Co-op Ride.
My co-founders are Ken Lewis, who is a longtime driver and transportation management professional in New York City, and Alyssa Orlando, who is a ex-Uber manager who came over to our side.
Co-op Ride is organized through a workers' cooperative, a business model that includes major American brands like Land O'Lakes and Ocean Spray.
In traditional companies, the wealth goes to outside investors, and the decisions are made by a management that's accountable to those investors. And that leads to constant conflict in the workplace. And that's why workers need to organize unions. In a co-op, the business is owned by the workers themselves. And so they make decisions democratically about how it should be run. This simple but profound difference of ownership changes everything else. Uber and Lyft, their outside investors are represented by a board of directors, which hires a management team whose single-minded goal is to squeeze drivers as much as possible and extract as much wealth from them as possible with high commissions, fees, predatory financing deals for vehicles, payday loans, basically every predatory scheme in the capitalist playbook. Uber and Lyft in New York City, there are regulations that force them to pay the minimum wage. So guess what they pay? The minimum wage. With us, we've set our pay rates 10% higher than the minimum wage from the beginning, and if we can go higher, we will. With Uber and Lyft, commissions eat up to 40% of people's paycheck. With the drivers cooperative, the cooperative has this sort of break-even fee, which funds the co-op's operations, and if there's a profit that comes out of that at the end of the year, it just goes back to drivers as dividends.
That notion of sharing profits with workers stands as a stark difference to major rideshare apps. If you've taken an Uber or Lyft recently, you may have noticed that prices have been high. A recent study showed that the cost of a ride was 49% higher in April than it was a year ago. Some recent surges have made prices jump 50% or more, but drivers report they are not benefiting from these higher prices.
Yeah, I've been driving for Uber and Lyft for about 2.5 years. I don't feel included. I don't feel like I'm a part of the community, like of the decision making that affects us.
When I work for these other apps, it was always a challenge to, to talk to a real person. They don't care about the drivers. They care about the money they're making from you. When you work for Uber or Lyft, you are considered as an independent contractor. How independent are you when they are the one determining their life for you? I'm giving my 100% time to drivers co-op. Why? Because if you have been trying to start your own business, this is it as a driver. The management are the drivers. The people making the decision are your fellow drivers. The board members are your fellow drivers.
Competing with Silicon Valley and Wall Street-backed behemoths might seem like a daunting challenge, but Co-op Ride already boasts a membership of 2,500 drivers in New York City, and those drivers remain unfazed by the battle ahead.
People might not want to join something like this because they just feel like we're not going to be able to win against the big guy. How would we tackle against Uber? How do we tackle against Lyft?
People say, well, how can you do this? And I have to say, how can you do what? Look around. The transportation in this city has existed for over 100 years, and it's almost always been propelled by the labor of immigrant workers and of working class New Yorkers. So we're not really doing something new. We're doing what working people have always done, which is start businesses to improve their lives.
I'm excited, not nervous. Ownership is everything. If you're going to be working, you want to have ownership in something. I just feel like it puts me in the driver's seat.
Co-op Ride has consumers in mind as well. Part of their strategy is to offer riders lower fares.
We'd be very happy for some competition in terms of paying higher wages to drivers. If Uber and Lyft would like to give over ownership of their own companies to their drivers, we would be happy to compete with them on that playing field as well. All that we need for this to be successful is for New Yorkers to make a choice. Instead of using Uber and Lyft to get around, use Co-op Ride. It's as simple as downloading and using an app.
All right, shout out to Co-op Ride in the house. All right, guys, definitely please download that app if you can. Again, on Android, it's on the Google Play Store. I don't know what iPhone people use, whatever it's called on your phone. Well, you know where to go. Anyway, download Co-op Ride, especially if you're in the New York area. I know they are trying to spread. They want to, spread to other locations as well. Yes, Corona, Right now, they're only in New York. They're trying to have more locations, but you got to start, somewhere, right? But yeah, I know. I'm hoping they come here too, because I had to take an Uber today to my appointment, and it was like $12.50, and I was like, to go down the street, like there. Okay. Anyways, yeah, guys. So please share that company. Shout out to Roger Meadows for bringing that to my attention multiple times. And I've just been incredibly busy, and I haven't had a chance to respond to some of my emails or my DMs. But I got to tell you guys, I think this General Strike Summit was a success. I've received a lot of DMs and emails from people. I haven't made it through half of them, but the ones that I have answered so far, people are just saying, thank you guys for doing this. Thank you for putting on this educational event. So people have learned a lot. And man, I got to tell you, a lot of planning went into this, a lot of hours, a lot of hard work. Yes, there was some criticism for people before it even started, but I knew that was going to happen anyway. And the only thing I can say to you guys is thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being there. Some of you I saw like the whole day. There were some of you I saw, you were in the chat like literally from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're sticking with us the whole time. So thanks so much, you guys, because we couldn't have done it without you. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you take some of that information back to your friends and your family and your community and share that information with them. Not for the views, not for the subs, but because we have to do something different in this country. The time has come. And if we continue working for the big corporations, nothing's really going to improve for us. We will always be the little man or the little woman or the little smurf. So that being said, David said, how many people in Boston use transportation services versus owning a car? Pre-pandemic, most people took public transportation. Well, we're not post, I guess we're still in it. After it started, there's more cars on the road now. In fact, traffic is really, really bad now. It was bad before, but now it takes me twice as long to get to places. So some people, I think a lot of people don't want to take public transportation now because of the pandemic. They don't want to be in close proximity with people. And we usually were packed like sardines on the train, just being honest. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. If you like what I do, you want to support what I do, please do so at patreon.com/Sabrina Salvati. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. You can also get merch from me. That's in the details tab of this YouTube video. If you want to do that as well, you can get a little Sabby mug like the one that I have here. All right, guys, tomorrow on Twitter, I will no longer be a Smurf. I've been a Smurf for a couple of days because it was our General Strike Summit colors. I will go back to being regular Sabby. All right, guys, that's it. It's almost 8:30. I made it in time. You know how we do this. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.